everyone. Francesca James. Francesca, welcome to the Living by Design podcast.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
I'm wonderful. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So please take a moment and reintroduce yourself. Tell us what you do, and let's get started.
So, yes, my name is Francesca James, and I am an energy therapist. And what that means is when something's going on with an individual physically, emotionally, mentally, that feels off, and they come to me for help, I go in and I'm listening to their energy and seeing what it is doing. I always say I see how it's misbehaving because
Yeah,
energy ideally is in flow,
yeah,
but energy normally is not in flow. It's doing something. If a person has an injury, like if there's a knee injured, typically the energy is sitting still, locked around it because it's protecting it, but it won't heal if it's not flowing. So I go in and I'm like, very weirdly talking to the energy, and I'll having it remember what it is intended to do. And so that's what energy therapy is. You use energy to help a body to heal itself. It's why I was saying to you, Dr. Esther, I don't call myself, a lot of people do say that they're a healer. I'm not a healer because I don't heal anything. There's
yeah.
something that moves through me that helps that person to heal themselves. The other thing that I do is I'm an intuitive wellness coach. And what that means is when someone wants to change what's happening in their lives, we look at what their belief systems are, because we
That's good.
manifest what we believe. Whatever we think is true becomes true for us.
Yeah,
And in the realm of possibilities, there are millions. So I'm like,
yeah,
pick something that
yeah,
you want. And let's look at the possibility of believing that and how we can shift and change what's happening in your life. So those are the two things that I do that drive everything else that I do.
yeah. That's awesome. So energy therapist and an intuitive
Intuitive
coach.
wellness coach.
An intuitive wellness coach. I love that because I think this is so much a part of what this podcast is about, is really telling people, teaching them, talking to them about how do you change?
Mhm.
How do you heal from the inside out?
Right out.
Right? How do you heal from the inside out? And how do you recognize this is where I am right now, and this is where I want to be?
Mhm.
I believe that God created all of us with a divine plan, and
Absolutely.
He has given us power. He's given us so many things, and we don't know how to tap into it. Right. And so I love that you said you're not the healer, but you listen to
Mhm.
help, to see what's going on. And then intuitively, you're also looking at, why are you stuck here? Why is it? Because many times we're self-fulfilling prophets,
Absolutely. Yes. I
you
agree.
know, um, our perspective is our reality.
Mhm.
And so if we believe this is exactly, it's going to come to pass in our lives. So I think that, I love how you said that these are the main things that you do, but it leads into everything else
Mhm.
that you do. That's so powerful. Let's talk a little bit about the energy therapy part, because that's what it really has an interest. Well, honestly, both of it does. I have a saying, really, it's I didn't coin it. I really got it from my coach, where energy grows where energy flows.
Yes. Mhm.
What do you think about that? Energy grows where energy flows. Let me add something else. I have one of my niece had a t-shirt that she said she got it, she wore, and it says, she said, my energy will match your energy. So what, in other words, so what you bring in,
You're
my
right.
energy will match your energy. All
Right.
of that, because I think that we take energy for granted.
That part.
Right? I think we take it for granted. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about that piece right there.
Mhm.
Energy therapy, how, you said you listen and you figure out. So let's talk a little bit about that.
It's a very weird thing that I do. Even after 20 some odd years of doing it, it's like I'm really going in and communicating with people's energy. And so sometimes, like if it's stuck, I go, come on, like, you're supposed to flow. And it's like, I know. And it'll start to move and it'll start to flow. But what I say is I represent flow to it.
Right, right, right.
So that it can go, oh yeah, that's right. That's what I'm supposed to do. I came to this whole thing, I think from birth, honestly, but as a practice through my own healing, because
Mm,
23, I guess it was, years ago. I had fourth stage uterine cancer, which was all stress related. I
Right,
really
wow.
loved my life and what I was doing, but I was, women, we do too much.
Oh, yeah,
We do too,
definitely.
and
Y'all, listen, you know how like I say, one hand up, two hand up, type it in chat when as you're listening, type in chat. Oh yeah, that's me.
Mhm.
Identify. Yeah, so true.
Yeah. And I was doing too much, even though I was enjoying everything, I was doing too much. And
Mhm.
I became ill and I had to have surgery. I tried to avoid surgery because I really thought I was leaving with my uterus, like I came in with it, but
Yeah, yeah,
happening. And so 3 times I went to emergency. The third time they said you must have surgery. We can't send you back home. They sent me back home one time with a prescription that was supposed to stop. I was hemorrhaging. I was bleeding. I had lost 50% of my blood volume in my body. And so they tried to stop it with a prescription. They tried to stop it with a shot. And then the third time I went, they're like, you're not going home without the surgery. And so the recovery was devastating.
yeah,
I was fortunate. I think it was divine intervention that I didn't have to have chemo. And what they said is that they're redoing what the chemo would be for this. And I'm like, that just didn't even make sense to me, but thanks God. So I had radiation every day for many weeks, and radiation can really destroy your body, you know.
yeah,
But every
yeah,
day I would lay on that table and I would thank God for my healing. Every day
yeah,
I would lay on the table and thank God for my healing.
yes,
But I was having some weird things happening afterwards, and I'd have to go to these specialists, and they diagnosed me with 7 different things. And fortunately, my OBGYN, who I love to this day, said, you don't have that, because he knew I lived an alternative lifestyle. He said,
yeah,
you don't find alternatively what it is that you do. That is how I ended up discovering these energy therapies. First, it was actually reflexology. It was the first thing I discovered.
yeah, yeah,
Reflexology
yeah.
works through these pinpoints on the foot. Generally
I
there,
love reflexology. Yeah,
yes, there are reflex points all over the body, but generally people work through the feet because it's the largest surface and it's a very pliable surface to work through. And there's a
mhm,
little point on the foot that corresponds to everything about your body.
yeah,
And what
so
I
true.
realized, Dr. Esther, is I would step out of bed and my heel was killing me every day. So I asked my massage therapist, because I would hear reflexology. I hear
Yeah,
reflexology,
yeah,
and I didn't know anything about it. I asked my massage therapist, um, do you know a reflexologist? She said, I only know of a school that I pass by every day, but I know they do sessions there. So
yeah,
that I went for sessions and found out that the heel that hurt was my entire pelvic region. That made perfect sense because they
mhm,
just destroyed it. And so going through reflexology, that pain went away and the healing started. Then I heard Reiki, and I didn't know anything about Reiki either. And then I had a really wonderful husband who found something in a newspaper somewhere about Reiki and showed it to me because he used to read the newspaper every day. And I found this Reiki class and started doing Reiki. And my teacher, we didn't accept everybody. He really felt that you had to be open to this teaching.
right, right, right.
That's just how it all began. So it really is energy therapy in all the forms that I do. I'm listening to what's going on in a person's body and asking their body to come back into balance.
Yeah. I
That's
tell you, yeah, that's powerful. So, I'm very familiar with reflexology because several years ago as well, I, had carpal tunnel and it
Mhm.
had gotten so bad. I don't want surgery. I refused surgery. And the doctor he went to the point, he said, you have no choice if you're going to continue. And it was in both. And I was in so much pain. And I said, I'm going to try one more thing. And I had a friend that told me about a reflexologist. And I went to this reflexologist and she does all natural, again, where I live, I'm around a lot of Amish or used to be Amish people and all of that. And so she was very much into the natural, the nature and reflexologist, beautiful person. Can I tell you to this day, and this has got to be about maybe about 15 years ago, Francesca. I've had no carpal tunnel.
Mhm.
I've never had surgery.
Mhm.
I'm a believer in reflexology and I always recommend, and I still go.
Mhm.
and have things done. And so it's so important to the body because sometimes, and I'm not hitting against, doctors. I mean, my daughter is a physician. So
Yeah.
I'm not hitting because they're here for a reason and you have to go to them. But many times we ignore the natural things that we can do to bring forth healing. And so definitely reflexology. You said that also led you to Reiki. And I will tell you, and I'm just going to be very transparent, everyone. Just, y'all, if you know me, I'm a very transparent person. Wasn't sure about Reiki. And I think you and I talked about that. Just wasn't sure. Um, I've met others that have done Reiki, but they always seem to be so spooky. You know what I mean? Like that spooky type of, that spooky type of, I call it spooky type of spiritual, like you're just like way out there. I'm like, whoa, and so I always had that question mark.
Mhm.
And then last year, I went to another massage therapist that was nearby. I just needed to, my body was in pain. I wanted to get, and she was also Reiki. Now, she didn't do it with me, but she began to talk about the different things. And that's when it kind of piqued my interest. I'm like, maybe it's not as spooky
Mhm.
that I think it is, or how I feel other people have represented it. Does that make sense?
Yes, that absolutely makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes when people misrepresent something, then you kind of miss what you should be seeing or getting from that. Does that make sense? Because it puts up, for me, it puts up like, no, I don't like anything that's super spooky. That's me,
Mhm.
or appears to be. I'm like, I don't even watch scary movies. You know what I
Me,
mean? So,
me either.
yeah, yeah. So
So,
interesting that it led to that. And so that whole energy healing, that whole part of Reiki, let's talk a little bit about that. Share.
so we are energetic vibrational beings. You get that part.
Yes.
And that everything really is energy.
Yeah.
I can hold my hands over a plant and I can feel its energy. I can hold my hands over an animal and I can feel its energy. I can hold my hand over a glass of water and feel
Right.
energy. And so that's the same thing. We are energetic beings, and energy goes off balance. It goes off balance. And so, really, all it is making the energy come back into a flow so that you become more balanced. I'm going to tell you a story. I had a friend of mine, this was several years ago, who just wasn't feeling well. She wasn't feeling well. I came to her. Usually people come to me. I came to her and I was like, chakras. Chakras are major energy points in the body. There are seven major, but there's chakras all over the body.
Yeah.
I was like, your chakras are I can barely feel them. They're like almost not present. She was rushed to emergency and they said, we don't even believe you're still alive because her body was shutting down. I couldn't feel her chakras because her energy was depleting, 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 and she was leaving. I was so glad she called me when she did. But we are vibrational beings, and that's really what it's all about, is feeling what that energy and that vibration are doing and keeping it enhanced so that we remain vital. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I guess that's why sometimes I say it, my energy is off,
Mm-hmm.
or her energy or his energy is off, or this. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So how then, you know, how how can we recognize all of this and what can we really do? That's No, I'm not even sure that's the right question to ask.
Well,
Because
it's a good question. You know when something's off.
yeah,
If you have pain in your body, it started with an emotion, which started with energy.
yeah,
Those all relate together. And so if there's pain somewhere in your body, then there's something off and you need some assistance with it. One thing that a person can do themselves is just close their eyes and breathe
yeah,
and connect with their own vitality. And they can place that breath in that area where there's pain or discomfort and watch it shift. That we're that powerful. We're very powerful beings. We were
yeah.
created with everything that we need.
Yeah, we were. We were. And two, that's why you can walk into a room too and you feel that the energy is high or
Yeah.
the energy is lower. The energy was just sucked out. You
Yes,
know what I mean?
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. So, so interesting. So can you give an example of one of your sessions, like the energy therapy session? You
Mhm.
said you listen, you hear, and I think that you said you think you got it from birth. I 100% agree because there's a lot of people walking around here and we can't, you know,
Mhm.
I think that's a gift,
Mhm.
and I guess before I ask you for the example, was there a certification? How did you begin to nurture and develop that gift to bring you to where you are now?
Well, I was an inner being always. From a little girl,
Yeah.
I just loved it inside. And I really sometimes I'm the youngest of three children in my household. And sometimes I'd go, where am I and why am I here with these weird people? But my birth, just really quickly, my birth experience was very strange because my mother, back in the 50s, I was born in 1951, was told, now she had two children. Her doctor, her white doctor, told her that she wasn't pregnant. And she said, I am pregnant. He told her that she had a tumor. And I don't know, unfortunately, what period of time this went on, but when he cut her open for a tumor. And voila, there I was. That's how I was born, very early. And I don't unfortunately know how early, but she used to lay me on a pillow in the sun
Oh,
because I was so premature and raw and the whole thing. But, I had a weird birth experience. And I don't know, that made me somehow a little different. I don't know.
yeah,
I lived very much inside. I developed a meditation practice when I had no name for meditation,
yeah,
because
yeah,
when something worried the child, the little girl, I would go up into my bedroom at night. My bedroom was upstairs. I would turn off the lights. I would sit in the middle of the bed. I would put the cover over my head and I would put my hands on my eyes until I saw a light.
yeah,
And so, and then I knew everything was okay. So I just had this weird beginning.
yeah, yeah. Weird, but not so weird.
But
You know
not
what
so
I mean?
weird to,
Yeah, weird to maybe to others, but
yeah,
all planned.
right.
I think
Yeah.
all planned to bring to this point to
Mm.
where you do the work that you do to help people heal,
Mm-hmm.
heal. We're about to take a break, guys, and we will be right back with more powerful, powerful conversation with my very special guest, Francesca James.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back to Life by Design podcast with my very special guest, Francesca James. Francesca, before we talk about a question I have for you, what's the name of your company?
Francesca James.
Francesca James. Okay, great. Well, I'll have you share your information. I know I went on the website and I was trying to remember what the name on the website was, but we'll
I
talk
have
about
a nonprofit that's called We Need Each Other.
Okay, that's it. We need
All
each
of these things that I do, this is under my name, Francesca James.
Okay, so
Mm.
great. Maybe hopefully we'll get a few seconds to talk about we need each other. So on the commercial break, Francesca and I were talking and I was telling her that, this is so interesting for me because many times, I like right now, I feel like if my energy is off. And so how do I get to where my energy is back on to where I return not just to Esther, but even a better version, because I just believe that when things are happening and then it's time for me, wait a minute, to look and see what's gone, then I come back even better than I was before. And we talked about multitasking, especially as women, how we do everything. So Francesca, can you just kind of share with us your thoughts and what you do and what you would recommend?
Well, we first do have to recognize that the nature of a female body is different from the nature of a male body. The way that we process is different. It just is completely different. When a man processes, the science says that he processes left brain, which is the organization and the assertiveness and the risk taking and, the competitiveness and
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That is in all of us. Everybody has masculine and feminine energy. But when female processes, everything lights up: left brain, right brain, hormones, her intuition, or all of these parts of her light up, which means that a woman can see a whole picture. A man sees a portion of it.
Yeah.
And so we do
So
have
true.
the capability of juggling all these balls in the air. We have that capability, is who it's our nature to be able to do that. But if we don't listen to our intuition to tell us when to do what, how to do what, where to go, then we'll end up doing too much because we're not doing it from a guided place. We're doing it from a, this is what I'm supposed to do. I need to do this, this thing, because we can, because we
Yeah.
can, we
Yeah.
can.
I love that we're not doing it from a guided place. I love that. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's why the latest thing that I do these days is I teach intuition class to women, specifically to women, because I'm finding that we're not listening. And it's, there's no fault to it. We've
No.
been guided away since the start of this country and beyond, perhaps, not to listen.
Yeah.
Our nature as women is used, but it's not honored and respected.
Mm.
And
Used but not honored and respected. That's good. So true. Yeah.
when I was in television advertising for many years, and they might be advertising a Porsche to the male industry, but the major demographic that they were looking at was the woman, because they knew the woman was guiding all the decisions.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to buy that Porsche if she didn't say that that fits in the picture.
Yeah.
Or if
That's
he
so
bought it,
true.
she'd say, take it back,
Yeah. Yeah.
So the woman, who we are and the way we think and the way we operate has always been used in this country. But, then people were, it was the silly woman's intuition, and they would just make fun of it. And so it made women, some time ago, it made women think to be quiet. And I'm going to say this honestly, because they've said it to me, white women in particular
Hmm.
have been made to step back and let the man take the show. Black women, we lived in matriarchal societies.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
woman with the grandmother, somebody was the matriarch of the family.
Yeah. So
And
true.
I hear it from white women all the time. They were told to just go along with everything and to be silent. And
Yeah.
so that means they're not listening to their guidance or listening to their person, you know? And that's a society that we've lived in. We have to learn to listen to our intuitive guidance, because it's always guiding us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's
Yeah.
got us
Yeah. I
because,
think that sometimes it's hard for us to listen because, as you said, with white women, they're told to sit back, and so they have it, but they don't. They're so they're insecure of it. They're not sure because they're so used to listening to someone else. And with Black women, in many ways, we don't have a choice because back in the day, men weren't in the home. They were always they were removed from the household.
yes,
And when you're going
exactly.
back to slavery days, the
Right,
men weren't there. So
right,
the woman is the matriarch.
right. Yes.
So she's the matriarch of the family. She had no choice
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but to hear so she could guide her family.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right,
And so I think that when you have no choice, that sometimes that automatically comes, but when it's pushed back, then you can't because you weren't given that choice,
right.
you have to use it. Yeah, interesting. That's interesting. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just think it's a major thing that has to happen right now. I just feel like there needs to be this huge women's movement. I just feel like there's a women's movement afoot,
Yeah.
because we have to unapologetically be who we are as women.
I
And we
agree.
have to unapologetically be who we are as Black women.
Yeah, I
You
agree. Yeah. Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I know this is kind of shifting. We have to be unapologetically who we are as women and especially Black women. But yet there's so many people that are afraid of us. First of all, there are many people, let's just face it, that are afraid of women. Why? Because women, we are powerful. And so no matter what our race is,
Mhm.
right? We're
Right.
all powerful. That's how we were created. We are created beings to be powerful.
Mhm.
But now we're coming to where we're beginning to embrace it and emerge,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So is it how do we now? Because people struggle. And then of course with Black women, we get the extra. We're the angry Black woman when we speak up.
Mhm.
where do you understand what I mean? How do we work with this? And even when it comes to our energy, when it comes to being intuitive, how do we put all of that together and say, wait a minute, this is just who I am?
I believe that when, like for me, for instance, in some situations where you need to have this conversation, I just say, God, you talk, and God, you listen.
Mhm.
Because if it's God talking to God,
Yeah.
then there's a whole different receptivity of it. If it's me talking from my angst or my desire or my whatever, then
Yeah.
you got masculine energy bumping up against each other,
Yeah.
you know? So there's a listening and an allowing that happens that shifts the way, you know, I, I have to say this about
Yeah.
Beyonce. I didn't go to her concert, but she has a film that just came out about her concert.
Yeah.
And my whole family, my two daughters and my son-in-law, we all went to see the film. And what I realized afterwards, I did a post on this, is she is exactly what I've been talking about. She is a balance of masculine and feminine energy. That's what we do. She organizes and directs, and she does all these things which are masculine energy, but she does it from a feminine energy place.
Feminine. Yeah.
When someone says to her, well, you can't do that, and her intuition says, yes, I can, she'll go, I believe that we can do that. Why don't you look at so and so? And for all the creativity, that's feminine energy. And the way she mothers her children,
Mhm.
that's her feminine energy. And there's just this balance thing that she does. That's what we have to do. We have to be both, because I'm part of the woman that went out into that masculine world, and I took on the masculine cloak, because in order to be out there, that's what you had to do.
Okay. That's what you
Or
had
else
to do.
they'd
That
send you
was
back
me in
home.
corporate America.
Don't
Yeah.
think for your womanness out here,
Yeah.
you know.
You weren't respected if you were no, you in corporate America, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit different now. I don't think
I
it's very
don't
much
think it's
different.
different,
Well,
Dr. S.
I don't think it's very much different, but when I
Yeah,
was in corporate America, I
yeah,
had to off, boom, you know?
happens. And I know what happened with me is you go home and you forget to take off that cloak.
My husband would remind me though.
Yeah, right. Yes.
He did.
That's
He'd say, Esther, this
right.
isn't work. Yeah,
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 right.
yeah,
We would. And so we became more masculine. We became more masculine in our behavior. We may have looked real feminine, but we were in our behavior and our assertiveness. And so I've been talking again on my social media with men about that saying, listen to the woman. And they were like, well, I don't know. And it used to be that I'd ask men if women were intuitive, and they go, oh my God, yes. And women were, well, I am, but now men are like, I'm not sure.
yeah.
And when I talk to young women, I realize in corporate America, they're still dealing in the same way. We don't have to. We set the path. You don't have to do that anymore. You
Yeah.
know?
But the thing about it too is that when we are like that, we're, and even back then, we're criticized.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
we're criticized, oh, well, she's just so, manly, or she's just got, yeah, you're criticized for
Walk
what
to
for
walk.
what you did. And then for us as Black women, if we voiced our opinion, then all of a sudden we become that angry Black
Mm-hmm.
woman. So wait a minute, I'm not angry. I'm just stating,
Passionate. I'm
I'm
passionate.
very, yeah, about what, yeah. And so, and I think it just happens, and maybe, Black women, women of color, and of course, some white women as well, that we all face, I think as women, we have to come together and say, this is who we are, and we are created to be so powerful and stand in our power. Listen, can I just say this? It's even scriptural. Let me just say, that how powerful women are, and that you should listen to what they're saying,
Mm-hmm.
because they've got insight
Mm-hmm.
to what may be going on.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there's sometimes I say to my husband, you probably need to listen to me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because sometimes I may see things that he doesn't see.
That's our nature. Yeah.
That's who we are.
That's how we're
That's who
designed.
we are.
Mhm.
you
I
know,
love
and
you
so
using
listening to
I and
what we say.
title because I think women are powerful by design.
Yeah, yeah, we are powerful by design. And so my husband would always say, especially to some of our leaders, is that, it's a wise man who listens,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm,
to his wife, or, listens to that woman,
mhm,
because she's the one that guides, and she's the one that can guide you and lead you, you
mhm,
know? And so now coming into where we can recognize that. So I honestly think that with everything that you do, I think it all leads to, the energy therapy, the just everything leads to exactly what you're speaking, and that, that you're teaching how to be, and how do we use that power that's already in us? How are we trained,
mm,
to do that, right? So good. Um, I think our conversation today only touches the very surface. So I will definitely have to have you back, Yeah, because it's just so much to deep dive into when it comes to who we are, especially as women, but as human beings, as humanity, period. And how can we, go from healing ourselves from the inside out,
mhm, 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 mhm.
knowing who we are.
We have to learn who we are because I mean, the bottom line is we live in a white patriarchal society that has not honored anything except for their desire.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, that's just the way it is. And so Black people were not, they didn't know who they were. The
yeah,
indigenous people, they kind of knew who they were, but nobody would listen to them. I mean, it's like we have to stand in the truth of knowing and educating ourselves about who we really are from the inside. And as women, to me in particular, understanding what is our essential nature. How is it different? Because it is different. And to understand, well, how do I hear intuition? Because we don't all hear it the same way. And to know that I can trust it. Trust is the big thing. Because people say, well, my intuition is not always right. Your intuition is always right. You might not trust it because it may be telling you to go over here when you think you should be going over there. But it has a
yeah,
reason to send you this way. Trust it and follow it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the bottom line to me, is that we have to understand our nature as people, as women, as men, eh, as whatever our culture, our ethnicity is. We have to understand who we are
who we
because
are.
it's been kept from us.
Yeah. And I think it's required of us, honestly.
Yes.
I think it's required. I think we have to know. I think once we understand who we are, we know who we are, then maybe we'll have not so many issues in society. We won't
Absolutely.
deal with the racial issues. We won't deal with, like look like what's going on, in the Middle East. There's just some things when we just realize, I know that just seems like so minimal because I know that's so great, but I just really think it comes from, do you know who you are?
Right. Do you know who you are?
You know who
Exactly.
you are, and what you were really created to do. You weren't created to hate and to do all of these. That's not how you were created to be.
No.
That's a choice that you made to
Mm,
do. And so I think going back to that, then I think that, of course, it starts with every one of us. And I don't know if we will ever get there. I don't honestly see that. But I think one person, if we can change one person at a time, we
mhm.
get closer and closer to that. So, Francesca, tell us how we can reach you.
You can reach me through my email address is Francesca, which is Francesca at francesca-james.com.
Awesome.
My
Awesome.
website is francesca-james.com.
Com.
Um, and those are the two best ways to reach me. And of course, I have social media. It's Francesca S. James on Instagram. I'm Francesca James 816. I think it is on TikTok. I've been on TikTok since October. TikTok's
Oh,
fun.
wow. That's good. I won't do
TikTok, so
it.
somebody said you should be on TikTok. I'm having so much fun with TikTok.
Oh,
Uh,
that's
I'm
nice.
on LinkedIn, Francesca James. I'm on all social media.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to take a quick break and
Mhm.
then we'll be right back for our very last segment, y'all. So see you in a couple seconds. Welcome back to the Life by Design podcast with my very special guest, Francesca James. Listen, guys, we have been having a great conversation. We've just kind of been, it's a conversation. It's a dialogue is what we've been having. And so we've kind of been talking a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that and that. And so, and that's what I love about doing this podcast is that we just have transparent conversations. And so one of the things I was sharing with Francesca is, and I put this on my social media in my Life by Design community. So if you're not a member, go on Facebook and request to join my Life by Design community. I put that in there, Francesca, a quote that you said, if you want to create change, you must hold yourself accountable. And in my leadership team, I've been doing some leadership trainings with them and my other team, as a matter of fact, my staff as a whole. And this was one of the quotes I said to them. I said, I could hold you accountable for things, but unless you hold yourself accountable for whatever change you may want, not just in the work environment, change in your life, change in your relationship, change in your energy, change in just every area, your spirituality, your mental health, your physical, just everything. You have got to hold yourself accountable. It won't happen until you make a decision that I'm going to first be accountable to me for what I want to come about in my life. So can we talk just about that for a moment? Because while it seems like just a simple phrase, it's really actually powerful and requires some action.
I think that we always have to look at ourselves in whatever situation.
Yes.
Because we have a part to play in whatever situation that we're in that we don't like, that we want to point a finger at somebody else and blame them for this. And we can always look. I mean, what just jumped in my mind is traffic in Los Angeles is absolutely crazy,
Oh my
horrendous.
gosh.
And people just drive across lanes. It's like there's nobody monitoring traffic. I can see that, recognize it, and know that something's not right, but I have to hold myself accountable for how I react to it. Like I could like people blow their horns and they cuss people out and they do like that's not changing anything. So
That's
I
not
can hold
true.
myself accountable for my reaction to it, and that's true with everything. I think in relationships, whether it's a work relationship or relationship with your neighbor or a relationship with your partner, when something is off and something's not to your liking, you have to then turn and look at yourself. So what part am I playing to bring this about? What and how am I reacting to it that's holding it here? Because like I said, everything is vibrational, everything is energy. So if something's existing that you don't like, what am I doing to hold it here? How can I shift it? How can I unlatch from it?
Yeah, yeah,
It's really about looking at yourself, I think, in all situations.
yeah.
Even though you recognize, it's not dismissing that something's off, but then you have to then turn to look at yourself. That's my belief.
Yeah, yeah, I am in 100% in that belief with you because you do have to look at yourself and it's a practice. I know for me that I hold, if I'm struggling with something, the first thing I begin to do is I look at me. Even if I'm struggling in a relationship, if I'm struggling in a relationship, I don't look at the other person as to what's wrong. I look at Esther.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I say, okay, what's wrong with you? What's happening with you that you're struggling
Mhm.
in this relationship or what? And so I believe that it always begins with you. Here's the other piece. And friend, I really can't help anybody until
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
I help me.
That's right. Put that mask over your face for the oxygen mask over your face first.
Yeah,
Mm.
have to before you can do anything else. So accountability is important. I think that when you're talking about shifting energy, when you're talking about healing from the inside out, when you're talking about the things where you are right now,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And where is it that you want to be? And I
Mhm.
like to add that in that holding yourself accountable also requires you to be truthful about who you are.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
I think sometimes we lie to ourselves,
Oh, all the time.
right? Yeah.
Liar.
It's
Yeah.
like, let me just be truthful about who I am.
What's for real? Yeah.
Yeah, what was for real? We have at one of my retreats. So I do my Life by Design retreats. And so one of my retreats, one of the ladies, and we were going through the different exercise. And by the third day, she said, okay. She said, I discovered I'm just really mean. And she said, what's so funny? And she said, people keep telling me I'm mean. I just didn't believe
That's funny.
it was so funny. Yeah, it was like a rebel, and it totally changed everything. And she said, but you kept drilling and drilling and drilling. And she said, I'm mean.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And I have to hold myself accountable to that. And now I have to hold, and she said, and I have to now hold myself accountable to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But first she had to first recognize that she's mean, and then why?
Yes, that part's really important.
Yeah.
Right,
Discovering your why. Why am I mean?
right. And
Why is my
trace it
energy
back.
off?
Mm-hmm.
Trace it back. Why is my energy off?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this? Why am I not healing? Why am I not feeling good about this?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that's also, so it's the accountability, the transparency, and in that transparency saying why? Just
Yeah,
really being honest with yourself.
to really understand what it's connected to,
Yeah. Yeah.
connected somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
because everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like our body. We're on the systems in our body, and so everything is connected. So you said that you also do, outside of the energy therapy, outside of, and again, I know in the audience it may sound like if we're everywhere, but it really is all connected together if you're just really listening. And even with the intuitive, one of the things I heard you say, and I said I would ask you, is that you teach a class on how to be. So can you tell us a little bit about that class? And if someone wanted to take it, how can they get it? How can they get it?
Mhm. It's called Guided from Within, and it's this again intuitively because I've taught intuition classes for many, many, many years to everybody, but I heard to teach it specifically for women
Yeah.
because women are the part of our society that has been set aside, put aside, silenced for
Yeah.
so long. And if we look, and I can only speak about my country that I live in, that's the one that I'm most familiar with. But if we open our eyes and look at what's happening in front of our faces, we are on an overload of masculine energy.
Yeah.
Just we're imploding with masculine energy. And so then that feminine energy needs to help to balance it out. They have to dance together. And the major part, I think, of what woman is she is intuitive. Men are intuitive also. I'm not taking that away from them. They do it in a different way. But the way that we do it, because it's been silenced and, you know, treated that way, it's important for us to understand, first of all, that we are intuitive, to really
Right.
just claim that that's the truth. And then recognize, how do I personally hear, see, feel my own intuition? Because the way I experience it, Dr. Esther, could be completely different from the way that you experience it. So
Right. Right.
what is my own experience? And then most importantly, I have to learn to trust it. And trust it means if it tells you to do something that seems really weird, according to your logic, you do it anyway.
Right.
Because
Right.
it's taking you, we're not here without a blueprint.
Yeah.
Every human being here has a blueprint on how to live this life.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
true.
taking you down the path that is your greater good.
So true.
Your intellect and your logic might be taking you someplace you really don't want to go, that you think you want to go,
Yeah.
you know? So it's about trusting it no matter what,
Yeah.
following it no matter what,
No matter what. And
just
trust in the process.
trusting the process. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not about, by the way, so you would know it's not about male bashing, because
Not,
it's not about, this isn't male bashing, this isn't anything like that. This is just really tapping into who we are as women, right? Who we and I like to say who we were created to be from the days that we were knitted in the womb of
yeah,
our mother. man, we were just created with some things, and it's really tapping into what's already in us and now bringing it out.
I always say I'm not putting man down. I'm just lifting woman up.
Yeah, 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 because
I
we need the
love,
men. We need them.
I
I mean, let's,
men. I love their nature. I love everything about them. So I would never put them down.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and I say that because sometimes people feel, well, you got to put this one down in order to, no, 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 because that we were designed and created to live in harmony together. And
Mhm,
so it's not male bashing, it's not putting anybody down, but it is saying this is who you are.
mhm, mhm,
This
mhm.
is who you are.
And
Let's pull
energies
that.
to dance together. They can
Yeah,
dance.
yeah.
Yes.
Doing the, and honestly, as women, we have to do that when we have our children, right? When we have our sons and we have our daughters, all of them are different, and we still have to be able to pull out of them what's in them without putting down the other. So these are things that we already really know how to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect, great. So now stepping away from what you do as the norm, there's something else that you do, and I'm gonna bring it up really fast. We have got just a few minutes left. Is that you teach a class? We talked about this in our conversation last week. I just have to mention it because I just think that is just so powerful. You teach a class to white people.
Mhm.
Just real quick, tell us about that class.
It's called Embracing Diversity, Creating Change. And it came about after the murder of George Floyd because every person of color knows that white people they finally realized that we weren't lying about police brutality,
Yeah,
at least in this instance. And they wanted to understand, they were being sympathetic, and they wanted to understand, and they wanted to know, and they wanted to talk to us. But particularly at that time and today, even still, we are exhausted because every day there's something that's happening to our people. Every day. Every day there's something that comes into your face that's happening to your people.
yeah,
And I, they wanted to learn more, and every Black person that I knew on social media personally was saying, figure it out for yourself because I'm exhausted.
yeah,
And I was like, if they could figure it out for themselves, they'd have done that a long time ago. So I
yeah,
raised my hand and I started teaching this class. And it's hard for white people to accept and even though they want to know, it's hard for them to step into taking the class because of fear. They think that a finger is going to be pointing at them, and there's no finger pointing at all. We're all in this together. What it is become conscious of that which you are currently unconscious. And you are unconscious because you were never a race to yourselves
right,
or
right,
a race to everybody else.
right.
But white people were just the people.
Yeah,
They weren't a race. And so they didn't look over here at what was happening to everybody else.
yeah,
They looked from their perspective, and everything went through the white gaze. Everything, you had to dress this way, wear your hair this way, speak this way, through the white gaze. And that's changed. That's not happening anymore.
right,
They're
right.
very proud of their cultures, all
Yeah.
cultures.
All cultures, yeah. I love that you teach the class, that you're bold enough to teach a class. And for the people who have joined the class, they're bold enough to say, I want to know. I want to know. And so I just, when you were telling me that, I just applaud that, because not just you teaching it, but the people attending it to saying, you know what, I'd like to know better, because when we know better, we do better. We have a totally different perspective. So that's good stuff. And so
They're
listen,
my favorite white people in the world, the ones who have taken my class.
yeah, yeah. And look, listen, guys, if you want to find out more about what Francesca does, about her class, her energy therapy, Reiki, any of that, she's giving you her website, and we're going to make sure that we post it as well, and make sure that you connect with her. We will definitely be having Francesca back. In the meantime, I appreciate all of you. Don't forget to jump on all of my social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere. Become a part of my Life by Design community. Join me for my podcast every second and fourth Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, the podcast, you can get it on YouTube, social media, and all of the other places where podcasts are shown. Also, y'all, don't forget my Life by Design retreat is coming up in May. And while space is limited because people are registering, make sure that you come. This retreat is life changing, guaranteed. I appreciate all of you. I love you. Francesca, thank you so much. We didn't get to do our 3 steps. So real quick, before we knock off, 1 step real quick. What can they do real fast?
Breathe. Stop and breathe. Anytime you feel off in any kind of way, any situation that feels off, stop and breathe consciously. Just close your eyes for a second, or don't close your eyes. Nobody has to know what you're doing, but take a breath and it brings you back into alignment.
Awesome. Take a breath and we'll bring you back into alignment. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great week on purpose or a great weekend on purpose. Bye.